Today I'm talking to Joosje Asser. Joosje Asser is the daughter of Eli Asser and Evie Croisset, two well-known people in the Netherlands culturally. They meant a lot to, especially, well, I can say the comedy scene in the Netherlands as well. So, but let's give Joosje the chance to talk about her parents and also about a book her father has written about his time during World War II and especially the Holocaust, and also as a nurse. I think he was a nurse in the Apeldoorn's hospital, mental hospital. So, Joosje, if you just want to give a quick overview on who you are and.
I'll try. So I'm Joosje Asser. I am born two Holocaust survivors. Were two Holocaust survivors. They were orphans because they were aunts, uncles, nephews, nieces, nobody. So they have to start completely on their own. Also, their homes were taken and they didn't get it back. That was a very lonely start in life. And they married soon after the war. And they made me first.
Yeah, it's good to have you.
Yeah, that was their star.
It was September 1945 they married us. Am I correct? I think I have a picture of that. I'll show it if I can. 1 second.
That will be nice.
I think that's them there on the wedding picture.
No, I don't see it, but yes, that's there. Just the two of them.
Just two of them, yeah.
And yes, and a few friends. Yeah, that's a very interesting picture actually, because they really were lonely, completely alone, and no friends. I mean, that's also a very important thing to think of. That on that age, you lose all your friends. All your friends. It's not. Many times they don't mention it, but I think this is a very important thing. But not only you lose your family, but also you lose your close friends.
Yeah.
And that's also a very sad thing.
Yeah, especially when in that age, it's important to have a broad support
and
system.
they both had a very strong friendships and very close and very caring, and so they lost also that part of life.
Yeah, I mean that's important in a normal situation, but given the fact this was after the Holocaust when so many died, I mean 75% of all Dutch Jews were murdered in either camp in Auschwitz or Sobibor or other ways as well. So, and if you survive that, it's very important to have family and friends. But if they're not there, I can only imagine how difficult that must have been for your parents. So, but they got you anyhow. So that's
yes, because
something good came out of it.
Yeah, they made it. So so that was my start. But in a way it's very difficult because this shadow of all this loss, it's you start also when your birth is already without family. So that is really strange, but I don't know anything better. So because I don't know better. But it's important in a way because my father he was meant to be a lawyer before the war. He was very clever, little Jewish boy. But after the war, he had to earn money. And he decided, because the second thing he did always his whole life, also before and in the war, was writing. And what do you think he did write at first? That was my baby book, the baby diary book. The diary, it's
Oh,
called.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, and that was it was a book about Luc who was talking avant la lettre. I mean, it was written from the head of this little baby, what she's all was thinking and saying, what she couldn't say. And this was a very big success. So it started, my birth started already with a big success. And I was one of the most famous babies, I think, in that time. Well, that's not so easy later on, but but that was the start of my parents' career, their first baby, and the first book. And so my father did write a lot for radio in the beginning, and radio was very important in that time. And later on, when television started to broadcast, he wrote for television, and later on, he wrote a few plays, a lot of books, comedy, but also drama and a thriller. And well, most of them were very successful. In that time, I started when I was young, very young. And I was 4 years old, I think. I started with my dance career. I was always dancing. And when I was 8, I was already a choreographer. So I made storytelling ballets. Well, the princesses came to watch. So all the 3 princesses were coming to watch my ballet, and I was only 8 years old.
The princess you talk about, Princess Beatrix, Princess.
Yes, and the only one was the Princess Beatrix was not there, but
Okay.
it was Irene, because she was too old. Because
Yeah.
she was older than me. And but Irene, Margriet, and in that time they called her Marijke.
Okay,
And it
yeah.
was really well, it was really like the princess came with the whole circus around,
Raj, yeah.
and I had to kneel for them, and I thought, well, are these princesses? Oh well, I had a completely other idea over a princess. Um, um, so that was where I started, and well, I was I could yeah, I had to go to school because was a good pupil,
Yeah.
that, and so my parents didn't allow me to go to only a school for dancing. So I had to have a combination, and but I had the luck to meet Sonja Gaskell, and she made, so I had to do an audience for her. No, an audition.
Yeah.
No, I had to do an audition. I was only 11 years old, and she said, "Okay, then you go come with me. So I'll teach you, and at the same time you go to a school, because she said it's also important if you can learn, and you have to learn, and also because I wanted to go to work on my choreography. So that's not a situation. I was I had not to be so young, because if you are a dancer, then you have to start in dancing at 16 years old. And I was already then at the end of my school, 18 years old. So I was very old then. And so I started at 18 as a national ballet. And that was my start of my career. Now, because I wrote also a political dance.
Physical. Yeah.
Yes, I did. And so I started to work in the film business, and that's where I'm now. My last thing I did was I wrote for television uh, about a Jewish council.
The Jewish Council in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam.
Yeah, in Amsterdam, especially in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
But also about that problem. I can't tell not so much about it because it's not yet broadcasting, but we'll see. And so now we're sitting here, and next to all that, my parents are. My mother died in 2001. I miss her terrible. And my father died in 2019. And he left a complete destroyed oeuvre. But I'm bringing the pieces together. And the last thing is that I wrote, or no, I'm composed his work together, and so this is a new book.
Okay.
Well, I show it.
Yeah.
This is the new book about, especially something terrible happened in the war, in the Holocaust, was the thing that they deported all the patients, nurses, etc., from the asylum in Apeldoorn. It was a very big asylum. It was very good arranged, and in the night they brought everyone away. This is a horrible story.
Yeah, and it's not really commonly known even in the Netherlands at the moment. I think I just want to give the title of the book is Ontsnapt uit het Apeldoorns Bos. So that means escaped from the Apeldoorn Bos. That's the name of the hospital. So I want people to find out. I'll have a link of the book later as well, and yeah, so, and this is just my own demand for viewers. If anyone knows a publisher and who can publish this in English, would be appreciated to contact me, and I'll hand it on to Joosje, because this is a story that needs to be read in more than one language, and has to be spread as much as possible. Currently, it's only in Dutch, only available in Dutch, I believe. Joosje, am I right?
Yeah, the book is only in Dutch.
Yeah.
But there's also a play, and that's in Dutch it is aan de vooravond. In English it is on the eve, and it's also written translated in German, am Voorabend, and that's also available for maybe production or whatever company. And this, well, it is also it is successful, but in Holland they don't want it because then it's the confrontation, what happened.
Mm.
And they were they are still afraid of that confrontation, especially in the place where it's happened, Apeldoorn. They still are very afraid because, yeah, there's, okay, everybody knows about it, but they don't want to know.
It's a bit of history they want to keep secret. I presume, even though it's not really secret because people know what happened there, but it's a mistake they don't want to admit. I presume.
There's also shame.
Yeah.
There's some shame for it. It is a scandal, and but if we don't tell it, then we don't know what can happen, and we have to learn from history. We have
Yeah.
to do that.
And your father, he was working in the hospital in the asylum as a nurse or a nursing assistant. Was
Yes, yes, a nursing assistant. Of course, he wasn't. He was there because there was no other place for Jews to stay in Holland. So in place of to be deported, was he had a spare, you call that a spare, because he was important to work there, but they knew already, the Germans were already, uh, um, their plan was, so all the people working there, and most of them were not nurses. They did work as a nurse. But my father was from, I don't know in English, maybe a gymnasium. Is it a gymnasium? We was He was a thinker, and
yeah,
he wasn't being from home, not more than 1 kilometer, I think. And now he was completely lost there on his own. But later on, my mother came also to him. Also, she was not a nurse, but she did work especially with the children. And she was already a teacher uh, in that time. So she was she was very good with children. But my mother saw one day, she saw Austerfunte, so in one of the most dangerous
horrible. Yeah,
assessors.
yeah,
She saw him walking with the director of the hospital, of the asylum. And she saw that he was, yes, that he was watching to look at, oh, so this is very good. Here can we stay all, it's very good organized, and there's everything, swimming pool, lawn, everything was there. So she warned everybody, she did, that there was something going to happen. But they didn't, well, they didn't believe, or they don't wanted to believe, or whatever. And so in that night, some of their most caring friends, they thought, yeah, we can't leave these patients. Some did suicide. They couldn't decide. And my parents, together with another couple, uh, just at the end, they fled. And they were in the woods that whole night. And it was very cold. I mean, it was freezing cold. And they were in a wood, hidden, and they didn't see anything, but they heard everything. And it must be terrible screaming, terrible shooting, screaming, dogs. 1,400, more than 1,400 people were deported in a sadistic way.
Mm. And this was in
And
January
that's about
1942.
this is about the stories here in the book,
How he
together
escaped.
with two other stories
Yeah.
related to it.
This happened in January 1943. So
Yes.
we're close to the 80th anniversary. It's coming up in well, two months time or so. So yeah, I mean, again, that's something. Uh, it's not a well-known event from the Holocaust worldwide, not even in the Netherlands, because I think a lot of Dutch people don't know about it, even though they should, because it is, there's documents available, so there's no excuse that people shouldn't know about this. So, but luckily your parents survived, and I have to say, I know your father's no longer alive, but I have to say thank you to Emmanuel, because I spent many hours watching programs he's written, like at Schaap met vijf poten, or the sheep with five legs, and that would be very funny. I know some of the songs; they were very funny, and they were very clever as well, and not just. You can be funny and just for the laughs, but these were funny and clever, and I always appreciated his works, his texts as well.
Yes,
So
I think it's more complex than only laughing.
yeah,
It's more like Woody Allen. There's also this tragedy
yeah,
inside.
yeah,
So it is a laugh and a tear.
yeah.
And uh, and later on, as his work is very serious about all what happened in the war. But then it is still light. And especially I've because I didn't read so much about, oh no, that is not true, but because I did help my father a lot. Often I work with him, and he took always my jokes. He never mentioned it, but he took it. They took it well,
That's what fathers
and
do.
yes, as like parents do,
Yeah,
because you are the child, and so they own you, eh?
yeah.
And that's well, that was a bit too much later on, but okay. But now they are not here anymore. I think they left very important Jewish cultural heritage.
Not even Jewish. I think it's in general a cultural
Also,
heritage.
yes, and
Because
also for the Jewish story. I mean, because my father is a bit. I mean, as I said before, a bit of Woody Allen of Holland.
yeah, yeah,
And so there is always this, also his humor. It's also that cynical humor.
yeah,
And I think this is, it is in the language. In fact, there is Yiddish in it, but you can't, okay, you don't read Yiddish, but it is in it because that was his background before the war.
mhm,
And so his roots are from the very poor neighborhood in Amsterdam, the most poorest. What later was made of for ghetto. That is what they made of it. But that inside there his father was taken. Later on, his mother is a sister, a little sister from 11 years old, all taken to Auschwitz. And so this was a very cold place later on because they all threw it down. So there's nothing left there. You
yeah,
can't. So where my roots are, I don't know.
yeah.
So then that's and so yes, and so it's hard. And well, Dirk, I think it's good that we speak together And maybe we can help to let the story go and flow over the years.
Yeah, because I think it is so important, especially nowadays, because
Yes,
and
absolutely.
anti-Semitism is well, actually, I believe it never left. And people think was it's rising, but it never left. It just came back in a different configuration. But it's a bit more instant nowadays with social media. You can say anything you want on a button and it's gone. And people often believe things without checking the facts. They say, "Oh well, if it comes from that person, has to be true." And I always tell people, check your facts. Even if people who read my blogs, I always check my stuff as well because I'm human. I make mistakes as well. But often it's people don't read the whole story. They see a headline, and that's enough often for people to make up their mind. So I think it's important to have these stories told and over again, and in an in-depth kind of way, not just highlight or like headlines in an in-depth kind of way. So I think your father's book is it's it's very important. Will be a very important document for
And there is
future
not enough
generations.
publicity.
No.
Absolutely not enough publicity around. It looks like they don't want this kind of publicity.
Yeah,
So we need publicity, and also what I learned is that we don't learn. We don't learn from history. We have to, but we don't.
yeah,
It is so strange. Maybe we don't believe the history, or maybe we think, well, this not will happen again.
yeah,
But it's happening now again
yeah.
around us.
I would say the only thing we learn from history is that we learn nothing from it. Um,
That's true. That's what I
and
wanted to say.
and
Yes.
that's a problem because even when you look nowadays, it starts slowly, but so did in the 1930s in Germany. It starts slowly, kind of subtle, and people start, and especially now when the economy is going a bit bad again as well, people will listen to someone who is giving them a promise and say, yeah, there might be something in
I
there.
hear very, very bad things as people with
Reptiles, yeah,
reptiles.
yeah.
So it's nearby rats.
Yeah.
And I think it's starting something, and we know about that, but we don't stop it. Um, um, but also discrimination in a broad way,
Yeah.
and not only antisemitism. It's being well. I think it is not so difficult. Be kind and help each other.
Well,
So simple is it?
you just accept each other for what we are and respect
Yeah,
each other. Respect.
tolerance,
Yeah. I
yes,
mean, and,
respect.
and you don't always have to agree with people, but that doesn't make. That doesn't make it a bad thing if you don't agree with someone. So it's just an open opinion, open debate, and you can talk about things, and that's the only way how you can learn and how you can avoid discrimination, anti-Semitism, hate, because hate comes from ignorance. It doesn't come from a lack of love. It comes from ignorance, and that's an important thing to know as well. Well, the technology nowadays is great because it tells you when you have to stop talking, and it just got a message there from Zoom saying that
Yeah.
we're out of time. But I am sure we're going to talk again because I want to go maybe around the anniversary of the actual the raid on Apeldoorn's boss and the deportations might be a good time then to to have a chat with you again. If you just want to keep up the book, hold up the book one more time so you can see how it looks like. I'm going to put a link anyhow, but there it
I'll
is.
send you a picture.
Yeah, and
And
that's your
in a
father
sense,
and your mother, yeah, on the
yes,
cover.
that's this is the marriage
Yeah,
picture.
yeah. I mean, look at those lovely smiling faces. Who cannot fall in love with these people? And,
They were really in love. They were
yeah,
from so that was their salvation,
yeah,
because they were 14 years old. They were already in love.
yeah.
That helped them through the whole war
Good.
together.
That's good.
Yeah.
And thanks for talking to me, Joosje. And as I said, we will talk again later, especially around the time of the anniversary of this horrible event, which your parents witnessed as well. Which it gives me the shivers when I think of it. What they even, I can understand the screams, and
Yes,
that's
that's the
probably even
nightmare.
worse. Yeah,
That
that's
was
probably
their nightmare all their
hearing it's
life.
probably worse than seeing it, because if you see it,
Of
you know
course,
what's happening. Hearing, your mind goes different ways as well. So yeah,
it's a wonder that they not were crazy,
yeah,
completely crazy.
yeah. I mean, I wonder a lot for all survivors as well. So how come? And so many are still very positive nowadays. I mean, I don't know how I would feel if things like that would have happened to me. I probably would be very negative. But there's so much positivity from the survivors, which I find just amazing. So, which is good. So,
Okay.
but
Okay, so we'll see each other. Bye
we'll see each
bye.
other again. Thanks, Joosje.
Nice, thank you.